folks that can't make it to this meeting on a Friday at 10 o'clock can still watch this. We'll put a link to it in our next newsletter. But now we are recording and we are going to put everybody on mute. Please go on mute. And we're going to turn it over to the representative to give an overview of how the session went from her eyes, what got done, what she would like to have seen, finished that didn't make it over the line. So we're really lucky to have her here. I'm going to turn it over to Representative Cristina Parajon.
Thanks so much, Councilor Fiebelkorn, and thank you everybody for being here today. It's so encouraging to see people excited and interested in the legislature and what's happening up there. And thank you for coming to hear it a little bit from my perspective today. I'm the youngest woman in the New Mexico State Legislature, if you don't know that, in almost 90 years. So it is a big honor for me to represent our community up there. And I have been fighting hard for a lot of the policies that we've been talking about, that y'all have been talking about already here. I also want to give a huge shout out to Councilor Fiebelkorn. Last year when I was new, it was my first 30-day, and Councilor Fiebelkorn was up there like every single day on Capital Outlay, making sure that we coordinated, and that's how we were able to fully fund a lot of projects that hadn't been fully funded in our district in a really long time. And so this year it was the same process. Whoever said that like Councilor Fiebelkorn is the counselor that's there, or they saw Councilor Fiebelkorn there a lot, I will attest, like, Councilor Fiebelkorn is there in bill hearings, like bills that will affect the city and our district. And she's not just committed on the money end, but also on the policy end. So I just want to give a huge shout out to Councilor Fiebelkorn. Happy that she's my counselor and up there fighting 4 more years, Councilor Fiebelkorn. So yeah, huge shout out to that. So I have a few bills that I'm gonna run through, and then like a little bit about some of the stuff that happened on the tax committee. That's one of the committees that I'm appointed to. I'm on tax and revenue, and I'm also on commerce and economic development. So those are kind of the 2 areas where I saw the most bills. And obviously tax is very exciting because that committee feeds in with the appropriations committee. And so there's a lot of collaboration there in terms of tax expenditures and tax cuts and tax spends. So and Councilor Fiebelkorn, will we go back to questions after like a brief presentation?
Yeah. Just if you want to talk for a few minutes, and then we can go to Q&A anytime you want.
Cool. Yeah, so I'll review a few of the bills, I'll review the bills that got the closest to being passed. And then I'll talk a little bit about 2 other bills that I, wished could have passed. But my big focus this year was really ensuring that we have protections for our workers here in New Mexico, especially given what's happening at the federal level. And so one of the bills that I was really happy to co-sponsor was SB 36. And that bill was a bill on data. If you didn't know, the MVD sells our data to private companies such as LexisNexis, and that data, personal data, I mean your social security number, your name, your gender, your photo ID, those data points, foreign or like not companies from New Mexico, companies in other states, and really anybody who wants it has access to that data. And so, at what's happening at the federal level, not to make it too political, but, with something like Elon Musk happening, and the federal government's certain overreach in certain areas of data, we really want to make sure that our New Mexican data is protected. So we had a bill to that if the MVD is going to contract and give out that data, they have to provide, the company asking for it has to provide the reason why they are going to use that data. And if it is specifically ICE, If ICE is requesting that data, they have to say that they're not using it to deport folks who have overstayed their visa here, for instance. However, we did have exemptions. So, if there's a criminal felony investigation, of course, that data is still accessible. So we tried to balance that. And that was a really exciting debate on the floor. That debate lasted about, I think it was something like an hour to 2 hours. So, it was a lot of back and forth with our Republican counterparts on how to interpret that bill and understand that bill better. And then the other bill that I was really, really excited to co-sponsor is SB 16. And that bill is to allow unaffiliated voters to vote in the primaries here in New Mexico. And that one passed the floor, as well as 36. Both of those are waiting in the governor's office, so we're waiting for her to sign them. But this bill was really important to me because as the youngest youngest woman in the legislature, I know that so many of our friends, especially younger folks, are refusing to identify with a party. So 40% of young voters don't want to register as either a Democrat or a Republican. Now, that's one thing, but then when you get to the elections here in New Mexico, 60% of our elections are determined by the primary. And that's it. That's all you get to choose a person who's going to represent you. And so what we're doing here is that we are allowing people essentially to temporarily affiliate with a party. So if you go and you have to request in the primary either a Republican ballot or a Democratic ballot. So those are the two. Those are, it's just for the major parties. Any minor parties, that will be a separate process for them. And those minor party participants cannot affiliate during the primary election. They have to be unaffiliated. And so that makes it very legally sound and ensuring that we're not violating any constitutional amendments of our state. I was really excited by that because we're enfranchising essentially 330,000 voters in New Mexico now into our election system. So that goes to the part of strengthening our democratic republic and ensuring that we continue to have a state here that represents the interests and the needs of the people who live here. That bill was also, I also debated it on the floor, so I had a lot of opportunity this year to engage in debate and to really defend a lot of these concepts on the floor. Some of you may know I'm in law school right now, and so I've had a lot of chances to both learn from professors, the art of the oral argument and how to really ensure that when we're debating our Republican counterparts or even Democratic counterparts on bills, we are getting to the root causes of the disagreement and we are addressing those head on. We're not wasting time or just trying to delay because we know as Democrats we have majority, but we're actually having a robust discussion on the concepts and the values behind these bills. So those are the two bills that I got across the finish line and are sitting at the governor's desk. I'm super privileged to have worked on such a great team with all those folks. Jesse, Scylla Avsil, Senator Antoinette Cedillo Lopez for SB 36, Somos en el Centro. And I don't know if I froze, but I'm back. So I'll get into some of the bills that I was more sad that didn't pass, but very understanding. House Bill 426 and House Bill 418 are two bills that would modernize the laws that we have on mobile home parks. And for those who don't know, our code of law specifically for mobile home parks are for homes that are attached to the ground. So this is not a trailer with wheels. We're talking about manufactured homes that are put on land that people cannot move. And, a lot of the reason why I decided to work on these bills in conjunction with Center on Law and Poverty and also with our folks who are living in the mobile home parks is when I was working at Legal Aid, which is where I was previously like a year ago. I worked on a lot of different eviction cases for people who lived in mobile home parks. In particular, I remember this one woman who was in the process of being evicted from her mobile home park because not because she didn't pay her rent, but because her home was painted two different colors of brown. And the landlord did not like that, did not want them to to live there anymore, and we're in the processes of eviction for that. So, there's all kinds of landlords here in our state. We have some really great mom and pop landlords who are very understanding, but we also have landlords that are folks who are not even in this state. More and more private equity firms are coming in to buy up mobile home parks because they are such good streams of revenue. They're so consistent. People who live on these properties cannot leave. This is their home. Oftentimes these houses cost 200, we're talking about a $200,000 manufactured home, several hundred thousands of dollars. This is someone's asset. And this speaks to a lot of the crisis now that we're seeing in our senior community. And when I worked at the Westside Emergency Housing Center previously with the city, and I think Vince was on here somewhere. I saw Vince, but Vince and I, we were out there in the trenches together. Hey, Vince, you know, in the West Side shelter, we have almost 300 seniors who are out there living there. And so we see that there's a big crisis for housing for our seniors, and mobile home parks. This represents a huge tranche of our affordable housing in our communities. So this was really an effort to preserve that housing. 426 would allow the mobile home park residents to purchase the mobile home park when the landlord sells it at the same price that the mobile home park landlord is selling it for on the market, or when he's gotten or she's gotten an offer. So it was the same exact price, but there was a lot of debate. This bill was a 3-hour debate on the floor. It was the full amount of time that you can debate a bill because there were so many questions about how it would happen. But what I said that day to the legislature, and what I'll say again here, is it was very difficult for people to imagine that folks living in a mobile home park would be able to get the money together to purchase the park. But in Vermont, 30% of transactions that are happening of mobile home park sales are happening to the folks who live in the mobile home parks. This legislation is across in all these other states. I mean, more than 20 states have opportunity to purchase statutes in their law code, 8 of which are, really robust opportunities for people to purchase this house. And so our job as legislators is to really imagine what would be possible for our communities and imagine something even greater for our communities, and sometimes that the communities can even imagine for themselves. And so this work was really led by the folks who live in mobile home parks. Somebody asked me, they said, Miha, like, who's putting you up to this bill? This bill is crazy. Just because we were trying to think of a new way, right, that people would be able to own property. And I said, it's the mobile home park residents. Like, they themselves want this legislation because they know they can do it. And if you're curious about that, there's a whole other information on how that happens, but Rock USA Capital is one of the organizations that helps folks purchase their homes if you want to look up more information about that. Um, and then finally, in the area of things that did not pass that I wished could have passed, we had 2 bills. One of them was to really increase the sales tax on alcohol. And there was an alcohol tax increase, and I'll get into that when I talk about the behind the scenes of what happened in the tax committee, which is an exclusive. But this bill was really going to be revolutionary in the way that we thought of the way that we tax alcohol. we were going to start a sales tax. So normally it's taxed at the wholesale level, and we wanted that tax to be a bit more upfront so that if you're purchasing a $100 bottle of wine, you're paying $6 of tax on that bottle. But if you're buying a $10 bottle of wine, you're paying 60 cents on that bottle. So it's more progressive in that way. Um, and there were two groups who have been working on this policy, and we really came together for this session to really propose something very novel. And even the distribution of that alcohol tax, all that $50 million that was coming in, and then another $60 million from the sales tax was going to go to novel distribution. I mean, the way alcohol tax right now is distributed is it's based on a number from 2000 to 2002 alcohol related crashes. It's by county, and then based on your GRT. So counties that have very small GRT, they don't get as much. Even though you have a ton of folks dying of alcohol disease, you're not actually getting enough to treat your folks in your county. So what we did is we changed that. The way it would be distributed would be based on alcohol-related death and population, not your GRT. So that means a county like San Juan County, where folks have some of the highest rates of alcohol-related death, not in our state, in the country. Um, those folks would go from getting $300,000 a year to getting $4.7 million a year. And so unfortunately that bill didn't go through, that bill didn't pass, but I'm still really committed to this because it's not just about justice and making sure we're distributing the funds equitably in our state, but it's also about public safety. 60% of homicides involve alcohol. And so when we're talking about making our communities safer, we need to be attacking the root causes of what gets people violent and why these things happen. And alcohol tax has been shown across the country to increasing the rate, increasing the price of alcohol. That's economics, supply demand decreases the consumption. GRE is, I think you meant GRT. GRT is gross receipts tax, and that's basically kind of functions as a sales tax in our state. It's just that extra percent that you pay on goods. In most places, it's from 6 to 8% in our state. So talked a lot about those pieces. I'm gonna go a little bit into tax. The tax committee it was a huge year for me because I got to sit on the tax committee, which I really, really wanted. I believe that tax is one of those areas that can really impact our communities, and I wanted our district to have a voice on that committee. So I actually got to chair the tax committee, and so I chaired the tax committee for the day that we passed out our tax package. And the tax package was a beautiful bill. It was that the House passed out. It was an increase on it was an equalization tax. So it increased the amount of tax that we have on oil, but decreased the tax we have on natural gas. So it was kind of a little bit of a compromise, but in the end, it was an increase on gas, on oil, and on drilling in our state, which for me is really important as a young person who's going to live on this earth, hopefully for another 60 years, but we'll see about that given our trajectory. But it was really important, and a lot of folks came out to against that tax. A lot of oil and gas folks came out against that tax. And I really wish we could have had more support on the side of increasing that rate, because oil and gas was saying, this is actually going to reduce our drilling. Oh no, and for me, it's about getting a fair price. If we're drilling, we should be getting, our oil and gas is some of the best in the world, the Permian Basin. We should be getting the value of our oil and gas that other states are getting when people are going to drill there. And so we were going to have this oil and gas tax, and then we were going to have this amazing tax, which is basically decreasing the taxes that middle-class New Mexicans pay. So we already have an earned income wage tax credit in our state, but it's for folks who make less than $30,000, $40,000, and we were expanding that to $70,000. So if you make $70,000, your personal income taxes for this state will basically be very, very minimal. And so we were going to use this to pay for that. And unfortunately, that oil and gas tax got stripped out in the Senate, and we had to go to conference committee. And this was another great opportunity that I was really blessed to have, which was that I got to sit on the conference committee. So I got to be in the room on the panel where we were making those negotiations in front of the public, and got to, say the importance that I felt about the oil and gas tax, and got to advocate for other important taxes. So we did have a small alcohol tax hike increase. We stripped out a lot of bad taxes that weren't good tax policy. There was a tax break in there for a millionaire who owns a racetrack. So that one was taken out. There were some other smaller tax breaks that were stripped out. But importantly, we also added into the tax package the healthcare provider GRT reduction. So those folks won't pay, whoever said, I think it was Dr. Henry, the reduction of gross receipts tax on healthcare, that's a small thing that we can do for our hospitals in the rural areas. There's certainly more that we need to be doing for healthcare in our state. So I was really excited to participate on those, and really happy to bring my expertise. I have worked in the past with the city on many economic projects and learning how to use Excel sheets. Previously worked at a financial consulting firm, so was able to bring my expertise in how we're balancing those sheets to that tax committee. So that is my very long-winded rundown of the 2 months. It was a very compressed session. Some of my older peers who have been there a lot longer than I have said that this session was very different than other 60 days. It was essentially 30 days back to back squished together. So we were running from the day that we started and sprinting in the last month. So rather than like a slower start. And so, yeah, I just want to give a huge shout out to Jesse Rivera. He's my district legislative aide. He has been just incredible. A lot of these bills can't pass without a team. And so Darcy, texting me about certain bills, Rachel, the folks who are really in my corner and helping me to be aware of bills, like that is how we function in the legislature, is really being community powered. So thank you.
Thank you. So before we take any questions, and if you have one, go ahead and use the react function and raise your hand, and I'll get to you in a second. But I just want to add, because I don't think that the representative adequately said how great she did for us in District 7 again this year. So everybody knows I talk about this for months on end around capital outlay. We have District 7 capital outlay priorities. Some are not in the representatives areas. But happy to report that yet again, all of the ones that are in Representative Parajon's district are fully funded this year. So she really does go the extra mile and make sure that we get the infrastructure and the projects that we need for our kind of, small community feel to continue. She made sure that we got full funding for the Workers Memorial Park, the next phase of that. She made sure that we got full funding for the San Pedro Main Street streetscaping project again. And, she is very, very busy, as you could tell from that overlay that she just gave us, but she still found time to talk to me every single time I tracked her down to talk to her about this capital outlay. So we just want to thank her again for that, because those projects, they're big for us, but they're little in the grand scheme of like the budget for the state, but she still really does prioritize us. So want to make sure we give her the kudos she deserves. And we have a question from Janet Sayers.
Yes, and well, first of all, thank you so much because I just serving on the library board, I see that we got also full funding of 850,000 for Erna Ferguson, which was built when I was a sophomore in high school in 1964. So we have both lasted for a long time. What do you think happened? Well, and again, because of juvenile crime that affects high schools and that corridor along Montgomery and between I-25 going up to Louisiana, that seems like a hotbed of stuff right now. What happened to the juvenile crime bill?
Yeah. So yes, we did fully fund Erna Ferguson and
Yes,
Heather Berkman's. If she's here, we both poured in our equal share of dollars to get that funded. So it was us two.
Oh, and Heather. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so Heather Bergmans and I, she's a new senator. She's amazing. She's a young mother. I'm just blown away by how I mean, she has like a 1-year-old, so I'm just like blown away how she does both. Law school is one thing, taking care of a little human is another, and she still killed it this year. I mean, yeah, putting in, I think I put in 350,000 and she put in the 500. Senators get a little bit more than representatives. Wow. But yeah, that we previously held like a community participatory budgeting like session where we asked our community, we had District 7 and her Senate district come to Erna Ferguson Library and to tell us what capital outlay projects they wanted funded. And so in addition to working with Councilor Fiebelkorn, we also had projects that our community had asked us to prioritize. And Janet, if you had been there, I'm sure you would have said Erna Ferguson. Lots of people said Erna Ferguson. So that's why we put so much money towards the library. In terms of juvenile crime, I wasn't on any of the juvenile crime bills. I think what is really important for me and in the way that we're designing our crime package bills is that we do things based on evidence and not based on feeling. And I think one of the things that we've seen and it's been proven time and time again is that locking up kids does not change them or teach them any kind of lessons. In fact, it creates further criminality later on in life. And there was a really great podcast, Janet, if you're interested in hearing it, The Daily, and I can send the link to Councilor Fiebelkorn to send it out. But The Daily had a whole review of just studies that have been done because this whole juvenile crime movement started many years ago in the 80s and 90s. And, really showing that actually even locking up kids for a month to quote unquote teach them a lesson does not have positive outcomes for our community because folks get traumatized in the prisons. In fact, they might even join gangs in the prison, and then further on in their lives go into more criminality. So for me, it really is important that we make decisions based on information like that. And that we're actually building a criminal justice system that delivers what we need from it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? We have the representative for 6 more minutes.
Ooh.
And I think I can stay till 55, Tammy.
Okay. I want to let you go in time. She's got a lot on her plate, y'all. Yes, Rachel.
Could you talk about the Green Amendment? I was really hoping you would co-sponsor, and I really want to see that get across the line as soon as possible.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, I have a lot of priorities and that the Green Amendment is a heavy lift for sure. I think the folks who are on there are doing a really great job of it. For me, it is important that I also put my energy towards things such as I sponsored House Bill 295, which Councilor Fiebelkorn, I think you were there. But this is one of those bills that is kind of a sleeper bill. Honestly, people didn't really know exactly what it was, but is so important for our green future. This bill targets RETA, the Regional Energy Transmission Authority, and we have all this wind, we have solar. We don't have the pipelines to get it out to other states. So how in the future are we going to be building this energy economy that's green without those pipelines? Oil and gas has pipelines. They have pipelines to Texas. They have pipelines everywhere. And this, the Regional Energy Transmission Authority, they are a taxes. They are an entity that is tax exempt. And that allows them to help businesses who are building transmission lines and getting green energy out of our state to California, to other places that we're selling it to. That entity is basically the only reason why we have transmission lines in New Mexico. We are one of the most successful transmission line producers in the country too, because of RETA. People are trying to copy RETA essentially in this state. But recently, county assessors have been trying to assess taxes on RETA, which means that those projects that are penciling at a very thin line are not able to get funded. And that was going to compromise seven other transmission lines in our state. And we're not talking about a couple $1 million, $11 billion worth of investments in transmission lines to get all that, the beautiful wind farm that was built up in the north, to get that energy out. And so this bill was also a really heavy lift. It involved learning a lot about tax policy. That statute on tax exempt entities is very, very confusing. And so that's kind of where I feel like the Green Amendment is in good hands. That is where I wanted to put my energy and where I felt that I could make the most difference. And that bill passed, and we're waiting for the governor to sign it.
Thank you. And before we go to Alex, I just want to say, if you're vote counting, which I do, I will just really quickly say that the representative voted correctly on every environmental bill that went on the floor, that she heard, including strategic water reserve, surface water protections, game commission reform, grid enhancing technologies, low income utility rates, the community benefits fund, and the innovations in government fund. That's like just a few. So I just want to make sure, if you're a vote counter, that she got 100% from me. Alex?
Yeah, I'm a vote counter too, and I'm following on with Rachel's question. Would you vote for the Green Amendment if it came before you?
I didn't have the chance to look at the legislation this year, but I'm certainly open to looking at it. I think like the way that, I think I don't know legally what the difference is, but Senator Antoinette Cedillo Lopez is on it, and she was basically like my legal expert for SB 36, which was the bill for the MVD data. And so folks were like, oh, how'd you know those legal cases? And I was like, it's good to have a law professor behind you telling you the answers to the questions. So I trust Senator Antoinette Cedillo Lopez on that one. Yeah.
Thank you. Cheryl? Oh, Cheryl?
Yeah.
There-
I think I'm wondering why we have to worry about transmission lines when solar energy and wind and solar are everywhere. And I know that there's, right here in New Mexico, we did some kind of transmission where it was like, where the energy collection for solar was on roofs, and they had blocks of people that they could get that energy, and also any excess they could move elsewhere. And it was my understanding they couldn't get it implemented in New Mexico because of our local laws, and so they're implementing that in Florida. So why do we have to transmit energy that comes down everywhere? I
Yeah.
understand that.
That's a great question, Cheryl. So I'll say two things. First is, and you probably know this, right? Like our um our state runs on oil and gas. A lot of our budget is funded by oil and gas. And so we need to be creating other industries, right, that we're able to produce. And it's true that, solar and wind, technically they're everywhere, but there are some places that have much, much more wind, right? Or much, much more sun. And so New Mexico, we're blessed. We're, I think, number 2 in the country for wind. And to build those giant wind turbines is an expensive, expensive project. I don't know how much Martin Heinrich put into building that with his Senate dollars and also with his legislation in the Senate. But we can't just build those giant wind turbines everywhere, right? They are concentrated in places that have a lot of wind. And so that's why we need to use it ourselves, but we also need to be creating the industry to export it the same way we're doing for oil and gas to prepare for our future. That's what I would say.
If I just might say one thing more, collecting those on the big turbines is not necessarily when you can put a little teeny, a non-real awful noise producing on top of a roof, but solar here, definitely, the solar panels don't get in the way. And so, it just seems to me that those big wind turbines that kill birds and stuff are just, I don't know. I just don't understand why we can't do it in a more environmentally friendly way.
We'll jump in and say that the most you might kill a few birds, although wind turbines have been redesigned pretty dramatically. But you know what kills the most birds? Coal. And so we need to be moving towards non-coal production, which we're doing in this state. And so I'm sorry to jump in there, Representative, but I just wanted to take up for wind because that's a really important part of our transition to a clean energy economy. Any other questions? We have her for just a second more. Okay. Well, thank you, Representative. We know you're super busy and we appreciate you giving us this hour to talk. I think that Jesse, Representative's assistant, has put his information in the chat. So if you want to reach out to her directly on issues, please do that. Also, just know that you have amazing champion for District 7, for Albuquerque, and the entire state in Representative Parajon, and we're really, really lucky to have her. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you all for all your time and all your questions. Really helpful. I also have a newsletter. Sorry, I didn't plug this earlier. I have a newsletter where I also send out updates, and I can link that in the chat.
Please do.
And so yeah, on my website, you'll be able to subscribe if you're interested. I don't really send a lot of emails out, so you won't be spammed. This is more just for like bill updates, a session recap, if there's any kind of campaign events, but that's not going to happen for a while. So it's mostly information on the legislature.
Great. Thank you so much. And for folks, we have about 6 more minutes, so I will stay on and answer any questions on anything else after the representative heads to her next meeting.
Great.
Thank you. All right, folks.
Tammy,
all right.
it's Darcy.
Yes.
What happened with the housing capital outlay, please?
So, short answer is that the community, so Albuquerque, Bernalillo County, got $80 million for affordable housing, transitional housing. It's kind of a mixed bag of things that we can use it on. And so that was a win. We had asked for 100 million, but we got 80 million. So I'm not going to complain too hard about that.
Also, I want to say I'm really pleased to see that the tent safe space for tent living is in place, and I hope we get more of those.
Yeah, I agree. I love safe outdoor spaces, as everyone knows. I have supported those since I took office. It has been very difficult to get any moving because of appeals and problems with that like that. But we do have a couple, one that got opened yesterday down in the International District, unfortunately not in District 7, but we should see additional ones popping up around the city soon. So I'm very excited. Oh, Janet, yes.
If you could give us an update on the Manal Boulevard TID or TIF, or what's happening to make Manal, to get Manal back in shape? That was the
Yeah.
first one. And the
Yes.
second one about the youth apartment
Sure.
building adjacent, to the
Yeah, okay.
Denny's there on San Mateo.
So the Metropolitan Redevelopment Area is the tool that we're using for the Manal area. So Manal between I-25 and the North Diversion Channel has been designated as an MRA. And that opens up a lot of tools for redevelopment, including like tax abatement. So if you're a developer and you want to go in there and do something, you continue to pay the tax on kind of the useless land that there is right now, even after you develop it, make it better. You get 7 years of tax abatement. There's a lot of other tools. For example, if it's development in an MR area, the anti-donation clause from the state in most instances doesn't impact the project. So we can actually directly do things like storefront improvement grants, things like that. So we are we're in the middle of that process. It's been designated. We have a plan. One of the problems that we found when we did that original plan was that the whole area is zoned incorrectly. And so I cannot be involved in the rezoning of that area because it's a quasi judicial thing that city councilors can't get involved in. But there is a process going on right now to determine the right zoning, and then that will be coming to council for adoption. So there's just movement on that front. And then on the youth homeless shelter, which is the old San Mateo Inn at San Mateo and I-40. That's been a priority project of mine since I took office. Worked with several other counselors, we're at 17 million now. Bought the property. It's being renovated. It will be open this fall for the first 40 young people. It's for kids 18 to 25 years old. There's really not another place to send them unless you send them to like the West Side Emergency Center, which I don't want to send them to. And it will be housing, job training, school assistance. It's right in the middle of town, so it's really exciting that they can be, they can go out and get on the bus, get anywhere they need to go. There's jobs all around there. It's close to colleges. It's close to things that kids want to do on Friday night, right? And so I'm really excited about that one. And again, it will be open for the first 40 this fall.
Thank you.
Sure. 2 minutes. Any other questions? Okay. This is not like y'all.
Just a quickie then on Manal. My experience is everything that was boarded up is still closed and boarded up. Is there going to be a city staff person to help encourage businesses to go back in and reopen restaurants and retail?
So there's a whole team. So I
team.
encourage you to look on my website under the District 7 projects, and you can see all the work that's going into that area. There's a Metropolitan Redevelopment agency at the city that has staff that works on this. City council staff works on it. It's a whole thing. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I think I don't see any other hands, so I'm gonna say thank you all for coming. I love when we have huge turnouts like this. So keep it up. We will see you next month. And if you're not signed up for the newsletter, please go to my website and sign up for the newsletter. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.